It was called the Arab Spring. And this is how it started. In December 2010, a Tunisian man set himself on fire after he was fined for selling illegal copies of software. His act of defiance sparked protests that quickly spread across the country, forcing the longtime authoritarian president to flee. Over the next few months, inspired by Tunisia's example, millions of people took to the streets of Egypt, Libya, Yemen, Syria, and other countries demanding political change and an end to corruption. But the old regimes were not ready to give up power without a fight. In some countries, the military cracked down on protesters, killing hundreds, but that only led to more protests. And as the chaos grew, so did the body count. By the summer of 2011, protesters had taken control of Libya. But as they fought to topple Gaddafi's regime, the country descended into civil war. Meanwhile, in Syria, the protests took on an increasingly violent turn. As the Syrian army moved in to crush the rebellion, protesters took up arms, launching a full-scale war against their own government. The Arab Spring had many causes. For decades, authoritarian governments had kept a lid on dissent by censoring the media, rigging elections, and crushing any opposition. But as the internet spread, so did the ideas of democracy and freedom. People began to organize and mobilize like never before. They used social media to coordinate protests and get around government censorship. And for a while, it worked. The Arab Spring seemed to be about more than just getting rid of dictators. It was about ordinary people standing up for their rights and demanding a better future for themselves and their families. But in the end, it wasn't enough. One by one, the Arab Spring uprisings were crushed. Authoritarian governments stayed in power, and the region descended into chaos and violence. So what went wrong? Well, for starters, the uprisings were too big and too chaotic. They involved people from all walks of life who had very different goals. There was no single clear vision for what the future should look like. And that made it easy for the authorities to paint the protests as a threat to national security. Another problem was that the protests took place in countries with a long history of authoritarianism. The ruling elites had a lot of experience in staying in power. They knew how to manipulate public opinion and crush dissent. And they were willing to use any means necessary to hold on to power. But perhaps the biggest problem was that the Arab Spring uprisings took place in a region that was already on the brink of civil war. Countries like Libya and Syria were already divided along ethnic, religious, and political lines. The protests just provided the spark that ignited the flames. Today, the Middle East is a more dangerous place because of the Arab Spring. The uprisings failed to bring about democracy and freedom. Instead, they unleashed the worst kind of violence and instability.